Reviewing the agenda, I'm assigning the Q3 analysis to your team. Please have the projections ready by Friday.
Understood, we'll prioritize that.
I wake up now in a room where the morning sun filters through silk curtains, but my hands still remember the feel of a polishing cloth on cold marble floors. Not long ago, I was just a part of the background, treated like invisible furniture in a vast, silent mansion. The only sounds were the sharp clicks of footsteps on the floor and the occasional clipped command thrown in my direction. My days were a blur of cleaning glass until it was spotless, polishing surfaces until they gleamed, and learning the hard lesson of patience that only true loneliness can teach. He would walk past me every day, the owner of the house, his eyes always looking through me, never at me. It was as if I didn't exist. At night, the mansion's silence would be shattered by his angry phone calls. His frustration and rage would echo through the empty halls, and I, the silent observer, would tidy up in the aftermath. But in those quiet moments, I started to see something else. I noticed the deep-seated grief hiding behind his rigid discipline, the sadness that fueled his routines. He was as trapped in this house as I was, just in a different way. While organizing his study, I found myself drawn to the papers on his desk. Endless columns of numbers, financial reports, and business plans. To him, they were just figures, but to me, they told a story. I started seeing the errors, the small miscalculations that could lead to big problems. Quietly, without leaving a trace, I would correct them. A little adjustment here, a shifted decimal point there. My work went unnoticed, but the company's small crises started to disappear. My nights became my own secret rebellion. While the house slept, I was online, devouring courses on business management, finance, and marketing. Each lesson was a brick in the foundation of my escape plan. I was building a new future for myself, one keystroke at a time, far away from the polished floors and silent corridors. Then came the morning that changed everything. Shouting erupted from the grand foyer. He was pacing back and forth, his face a mask of fury. A crucial business dinner, a make-or-break deal, was suddenly on the verge of collapse because a guest had canceled. His frantic eyes scanned the room, and for the first time they landed on me. Not as a housekeeper, but as a solution. There was a desperate calculation in his gaze. He told me I was going to the dinner. My instructions were simple: be silent, be decorative, be invisible. Just fill the empty seat. Before I could process it, a friend of his, a whirlwind of energy, rushed me through a series of high-end boutiques and salons. I looked in the mirror and saw a stranger staring back. A powerful, unfamiliar woman who bore no resemblance to the girl who polished floors. I was handed a dress that felt more like armor and told to smile, but never, ever speak. At the restaurant, the atmosphere was electric with tension. As we walked in, all eyes turned to me. Men who were used to seeing the same faces at these tables stood up, their curiosity piqued. The small talk started, a delicate dance of words where every sentence held a hidden meaning. He delivered his pitch, confident and polished, but it wasn't landing. The investors weren't asking about profits and projections. They were asking about people, about community impact, about the soul of the business. Then the unexpected happened. One of the investors turned to me, the silent woman at the end of the table, and asked for my opinion. A hush fell over the room. My employer shot me a look of pure panic. But in that moment, years of silence broke. I spoke calmly, my voice steady. I didn't talk about spreadsheets or profit margins. I talked about the communities I had researched, the people whose lives would be affected by their decisions. I talked about building something with purpose, not just for profit. Faces that were bored and distracted leaned in, their interest growing with every word. The ideas that I had nurtured in secret for so long poured out of me, an unstoppable current. I could feel my employer stiffening beside me, his fury a palpable force. But the energy in the room had shifted. It was no longer his. The investors were taking notes, nodding, engaged in a way they hadn't been all night. As the dinner ended, a business card was quietly slid across the table to me. The car ride home was thick with a suffocating rage. He yelled, his words a cruel torrent meant to belittle and break me. He called me stupid, arrogant, and ungrateful. But something inside me had snapped. For the first time, I answered back. I told him I was more than just his housekeeper. I refused to shrink, to be invisible anymore. In a fit of uncontrolled anger, he fired me. With a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years, I told him I had already quit. I packed my few belongings that night, a feeling of exhilarating freedom replacing the familiar dread. A friend was waiting for me outside with a bottle of wine and a proud smile. I left the keys to the mansion on the table without a single look back. I slept lightly, my mind racing with possibilities. The next morning, the sunlight felt different. It felt like hope. I called my family, my voice trembling as I asked if I could come home for a while. Their encouragement was immediate and unconditional. For a full day, I just stared at the business card, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. Finally, I picked up the phone and made the call, my voice steady despite the nerves. The interview was in a bright office overlooking the harbor. The questions came, and the answers flowed out of me, natural and confident. Before I knew it, a contract was placed in front of me. The numbers, the title, the opportunity, it felt unreal, life-changing. I signed it with a hand that shook, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of the moment. My old uniform was replaced with tailored suits. The work was intense, demanding, but incredibly meaningful. I was put in charge of developing the very community-focused programs I had spoken about at the dinner. I poured my heart into it, and the results were immediate. Communities responded, and our success grew faster than anyone had predicted. Months later, I found myself sitting across a boardroom table from my old employer. His company was struggling and mine was thriving. I was there to propose a partnership. I presented my plan with a confidence that felt earned, the woman who was once invisible now leading the conversation. The deal was approved swiftly. As the meeting concluded, one of his senior partners, the one who had raged alongside him that night in the car, stormed out of the room, his world turned upside down. Later, my former employer and I spoke. Not as master and servant, but as equals. We talked about change, about growth, and about how respect is earned, not demanded. Our companies began to work together, differently this time. More time passed. At a large industry conference, I was the keynote speaker. As I finished my speech, the room erupted in thunderous applause. I scanned the crowd, and from the back of the room, a familiar face smiled at me. After the event, he found me. And he finally, sincerely, apologized. I accepted it, not with resentment, but with the peace that comes from moving forward. Looking back, the distance I've traveled seems impossible. Being seen, truly seen, for the first time changed everything. I was never just a piece of furniture. I was never just a housekeeper. The potential was always there, waiting. Sometimes, the greatest opportunities are hidden inside the deepest disrespect. Sometimes, silence is what sharpens your wisdom. And sometimes finding your voice can change not just your future, but the futures of everyone around you. The housekeeper is gone. A leader stands in her place. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content.